meeting is being recorded.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. This is our second quarterly West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council Advisory Board meeting. We realized the name was a bit too long, so we dropped off the word county. Thank you very much again. And I would like to acknowledge and welcome again Mark Rodriguez from the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. Thank you for joining us. Brandy Richard Thompson from FEMA, Mike Wilson and Nora Cooper from ALERTCalifornia, and we're going to learn more about them. So new members, thank you very much. We're also supposed to have a representative from Richmond Police. Maybe he's late, but we hope Donovan can join us too. So welcome again, and thank you very much all for participating. We try to keep the meeting short and sweet and informative, and between the two quarterly meetings, we usually stay in touch, but this is a good way actually for the synergy, coming together, sharing ideas and moving forward. So I would like to start by a couple of quick announcements. Thanks to Chief Bachman and Contra Costa County Fire Protection District, we have the community warning system inserts went out to everyone. We don't know how effective that is. We're going to follow up. And another item on the agenda is related to that about virtual drill. We'll get to that. And I have a sad announcement too, and that is EBMUD decided to withdraw their grant for our website. So more than ever, we need your help to get grants for the Fire Safe Council. I would like to start by reporting to you about the open house we had. Thanks to Chief Montoya and Fire Station number 63. We had the first open house for the firehouse, joined with a fundraiser with West Contra Costa Fire Safe Council. Rebecca, as our treasurer, would you like to provide a very brief fundraiser report to the group?
Oh, well, first of all, it was a lot of fun. We raised almost $3,000, and it was nice. The first time that we got to meet a lot of the members of the West Contra Costa Fire Safety Council. So, I consider it a major success for the council. It was set up so that we could purchase risk insurance, so that we would be able to proceed with some of the activities that we want to pursue to reduce fire hazards in the community. So we're now able to purchase the insurance and go forward. So it was great. Thank you.
Thank you. It was a lot of fun. Thank you, Chief Montoya. And we agreed to keep it annually. Would you like to add anything, Chief Montoya?
No, it was a great event, and it served two purposes. We had it for Fire Prevention Week for us, and we just thought we'd bring in the Fire Safe Council because it just aligns so well for us, and it was a great event. A lot of people there, and a lot of recognition for the event, and especially the Fire Safe Council on them, following through with everything that they needed to, and it was just overall success for both purposes, and it was something that, like Sohaila says, that we want to continue to do every year. So it was a great event. It surprised me that most of the people, even though we started at 11, most of the people started to show up at about 2 or 3. So there was a lot of people there close to the end, which was good. Yeah,
we let everybody know like 3 months in advance. If other agencies would like to participate or stop by, you're more than welcome. I would like to thank CALFire again and Chief Buckman for installing the first fire danger today sign in our neighborhood in El Sobrante. People are very excited about it. They feel like we're finally getting some attention about wildfire safety, though we still don't know who's gonna set it. Or do we need volunteers to do it? How do we know about it? And also we'd like to know about the rest of the signs when they're going to be installed.
So it's we're currently managing the we'll say where the needle's at today, but yes, we are looking for volunteer groups to help us keep those signs updated. We have 2 signs installed in the Lafayette Pleasant Hill area, and it's being updated by CERT, I believe it's CERT members in those communities. And how we implemented it there, because they do have a locking key on the back, is they installed a like kind of a generic lock box. It just had a code, and we put the key inside the lock box. So then it doesn't matter who goes out there. They just type in the 3 or 4 digit code in that little lock box that's mounted on the sign, open it up, get the key out, unlock the padlock in the back, move the needle and relock it. So I'd like to do the same type thing in West County, as we have this one sign, and then look at other locations to install future signs. We have one more sign that we can install out in West County. I do need to confirm if it's a 2-sided sign. So we had some issues that we're still working through with the vendor on the 2-sided signs, because the locks don't line up when you go to lock them. So if it's a single-sided sign, it's not an issue, but we had ordered a couple 2-sided and single-sided signs. So if it's another 2-sided sign, we have some lock issues that we're currently working with the vendor on to correct. But we do have one more sign that we can get installed. We just have to, I have to go back through the locations. So San Pablo City did identify a couple of locations that they supported and said that they would waive any permit fees associated with installing those in the city, because I believe they're in either city-owned lots or on public space areas that we would have permission to install the signs on. And that location that we installed the one on, they didn't have an issue with. But inside city limits, there is another location that we're evaluating that's more just off of Interstate 80 before you get to the shopping center there on San Pablo Dam Road. So there's a small section in there that we could hit residents going the other direction on San Pablo Dam Road that we're looking at.
Okay, we were hoping to get 2 more in El Sobrante area. We're not getting them.
Well, I only ordered 5 altogether. So I really can't install 3 in one city when I have 11 cities in our jurisdiction. But we did, we'll say, commit 2 to West County. If the recommendation is that you want them both on San Pablo Dam Road, I'm open to that. Is there another area, since we have one on San Pablo Dam Road, to install it on? And then we do plan on this next budget cycle. So we start working on our budget in January for next year, effective July 1, 2023, that we're going to put in to add more, add the budget items to fund more signs throughout our jurisdiction. They cost about, I think a single-sided sign is around $1,600 and the double-sided sign is like $2,300, or just around $2,000. So our initial investment, I think we spent right around $10,000 when we bought the signs we currently have, with shipping cost, and we had a little artwork cost initially, but now the templates are all done. I think for a ballpark, you could just say it's roughly $2,000 a sign when you're estimating it, when you add the shipping cost in there.
Okay, very good. Yeah, actually, we do need more in other wildfire areas like Valley View Road and Oppian Way at their cross section. Also beginning of San Pablo Dam Road. And I thought I saw Caltrans representative here, but I think he's gone. And we could have one right at the entrance of San Pablo Dam Road on Caltrans property. We can discuss it later on. I don't want to take groups time here, but yes, please, we would very much appreciate it. We're excited that the city is gonna have some, and we talked to East Bay Regional Parks, and they're gonna consider having some at the entrances of the park. So that's good. Thank you very much for the update. Can we also talk about the progress on emergency egress route for people of Pinole and also Bronte?
Sure. So we, I was just going to our website to make sure it was updated. So the form to actually fill out a request is now live on our webpage. If you go to and we're supposed to be getting a tab. I don't see it yet on our homepage. To click on for the Measure X funding of, we'll say, mitigation programs that Measure X is funding throughout Contra Costa County, to submit a request or look at what funding is available. Currently, if you go to our website, select the drop down for fire prevention, the program is called Contra Costa County Wildfire Mitigation Project. If you click on that attachment, it takes you to a Google form that says this is the Contra Costa County Wildfire Mitigation Program, and you submit your entries. The only thing I ask is please don't save the Google link. This is just a short-term bridge. We're in the process of working with a company that we're actually going to have a full-on portal and a website that's going to help us manage all these proposals. But for now, we're going to track them in Google Forms. So in the future, in the next 2 months, we think we'll have this portal up and going, but we want to be able to start receiving the applications for chipping days, for Firewise community requests, for fuel reduction projects, for shaded fuel breaks, whatever the project may be that's listed as an eligible item. So the home hardening piece, you'll notice that it still says it's one of the items, but it's not available for funding just yet because we're still working through the logistics piece on how we can write those checks with the county auditor's office. But the other request can be done, and November 1st is kind of our first day, or this week, that we're transitioning crew 12. Rather than working on shift, they're going to be working through the week with a primary focus on fuel reduction projects. So over the last, we'll say from July 1, they primarily have had a focus on responding to fires, but on days that we felt the weather conditions were right and the likelihood of them getting called to a fire in the morning, we were kind of using them also in a capacity to do these fuel reduction projects, evacuation route cleanup, chipping days throughout the county. And we were handling most of those requests through Firewise communities or fire safe consoles that was communicating with the communities or with cities that had small projects that they wanted done. Now anybody can go to our website, fill out this form, and be considered for a project. We do ask on that form, it will say, have you discussed this project with your local fire department? Because this is a countywide program, I don't want to be, approving and directing work on behalf of CALFire into Richmond Fire's area or into San Ramon Fire or Moraga or El Cerrito. That's why we ask that question. If that answer is no, it's not that your project isn't going to get approved, it's going to be put on hold. And I'm going to forward it to the fire marshal or the fire chief in that jurisdiction and say, we have this request. I want to make sure you support this proposal, and how would you rank it? Because we can only do so many projects in each city each month. So it's not that we won't get to the project. It may get pushed down further down the list if the fire chief or the fire marshal says, in my city, these are the top 3 projects I would like to see done in the next couple months. These would be the projects that we would focus on. So we're kind of going to be the funnel or making sure that we're working with Crew 12 to assign these projects, or does it need to be an outside contractor? But we will be confirming with that fire district that they support this proposal and are ranking it as their number 1, number 2, or number 3 project that they want us to focus on when we get to that city. So when we're over in Richmond working, what's the first project they would like Crew 12 or an outside contractor to work on, and we'll just go down the list.
Thank
So
you.
it's not a first come, first serve. Don't feel that you got to hurry up and apply to get on the list, because it really, the priority of that list is totally going to be driven from the fire chief or the fire marshal, whoever each jurisdiction identifies will be placed in the priority of what's the highest risk project that we want to get done first, second, third, fourth, as we go down the line. So that's why we added that question on there. When it comes to chipping days, we'll be able to get to them. We do put the limitation of chipping days are not for individual properties. Chipping days are for Firewise communities. If you are not Firewise, then it needs to be a community event where you have a committed subdivision of at least 10 houses saying, hey, we've done this mitigation work. We've cleared out a lot of stuff. This is a location we're going to have everything piled up. And can you swing by here and do some chipping for us? And then we'll need to determine, can it be chipped in place and broadcasted on the ground, or does it need to be hauled off?
Thank you very much. So it means that residents can apply, and do fire chiefs have their own way of applying directly through you, or everything goes through this website?
So everything's going to go through this portal, and it can either be done by the fire chief can fill this form out, or the resident can fill the form out and say, I've discussed this project with the fire chief or with the fire marshal or with the fire inspector, and they support it. Or we'll follow up on the behind the scenes and forward the request to the fire chief or the fire marshal and say, these are the 3 requests we have for your jurisdiction. Or because some of them may be too large. Some of them we might not be able to handle with Crew 12. Some of them may require CEQA compliance. And it just depends on how big is the project. Does it require CEQA compliance that now we have to get an environmental study done on the project before we could start cutting down dead trees? And if that's the case, of course, that's going to just push it back, that it may be 2 or 3 months before we can get to it, rather than we could get to it in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, CEQA remains a major problem. We actually had a meeting with East Bay Regional Park District fire chiefs. They gave us a tour. That's the next item, but they told me they cannot attend today because they have to give a tour to Senator Skinner's office. So longest story short, they said, Chief Montoya, would you like to talk about it? About East Bay Regional Park's probability of training Crew 12 with CEQA?
Sure. Well, it wasn't with Crew 12. It was just, and I believe Mike Wilson is aware of this. He was assisting us in trying to find a CEQA representative where we've been struggling with that. And we had that tour like Sohaila was alluding to with East Bay Parks, and they were going to get us a contact to the person that they use, but that hasn't come to fruition for us to try to get that contact. So now that we have you on the meeting here, Chris, Mike's suggestion was that we contact the Resource Conservation District there in Contra Costa County, and but I have yet to locate anyone over there that has that title, or individuals that may have that title. So the recommendation, which I agree with, that Mike Wilson made, was that we put that representative from the county in contact with our city planner and try to work out that CEQA compliance. But we obviously have our individual here for the city of Richmond identified, but we've yet to identify anybody either from Contra Costa County or what East Bay Parks, the individuals that they use or individuals. So we're
I'd
at a
have to go back-
roadblock. We're at a roadblock right now. We
Okay.
have no resolvement.
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look through some previous notes. I know when we did some evacuation route cleanup on
Maybe.
some county roads, I did have a contact that who handles that from the county level for public works. Because there's some exceptions that they're exempt when you're dealing with evacuation route cleanup. But as you get away from evacuation route cleanup and start dealing like in the open space and dealing on large parcels of doing cleanup, that CEQA does apply. So when it does, how we're going to handle that is we're getting ready to send our RFP out for the CALFire shaded fuel break grant that we got to hire for a CEQA consultant. We're trying to add the language in there that the CEQA consultant would be used for this shaded fuel break that we're doing around Rossmore and Lafayette. But then in addition, they would be used for any additional projects that Contra Costa County Fire would identify the need for CEQA compliance. So whenever they're doing CEQA compliance for our shaded fuel break through CALFire, we'll use the grant funding for CALFire. If we're needed for CEQA compliance, let's say for a mitigation project in the city of Richmond that Measure X is paying for, then my Measure X dollars that we have set aside, because we did set aside some of these dollars in this program to pay for those environmental studies and CEQA compliance, that we would have that environmental consultant deal with our CEQA compliance, let's say in the city of Richmond or in the open space of whatever project we're looking at, if that resource doesn't exist, to make sure that we're not going in doing any work that is going to get us in trouble or identified that we should have had CEQA. We should have had a CEQA study done and we're not compliant with the CEQA rules.
So is that something that I understand that in the county area that will apply, you could use those grants, and then obviously in unincorporated areas, but in terms of the city of Richmond, is that something that we can piggyback on when we need it specifically for the city, or you just perhaps?
So that the goal is that when we identify who this consultant is or who gets awarded that RFP, that if it's a mitigation project that's being funded through Measure X, that if CEQA compliance is required, or if a study is required to identify here's the things that need to be achieved in order to be compliant, that we would hire that consultant to do that for that project that Measure X is paying for. If it's not a Measure X project that's being identified through this wildfire mitigation program, then no, the consultant would not be used for, let's say, I don't know, maybe there's a different project that the city of Richmond is just looking at doing on their own. It wouldn't be available for that. But if it's a fuel reduction project that is going to be submitted to this Measure X wildfire mitigation program, then yes, the CEQA compliance for that program was factored in. So we were, Measure X allotted $2 million for us to set up this mitigation program. And of that $2 million, we did set aside several $100,000 to spend and to identify CEQA compliance if necessary, because we didn't want to not be able to do large projects because we had no form of CEQA compliance or who was going to do the CEQA study. This will allow us to do that. And the goal is, because we're currently getting ready to submit an RFP for the CALFire CEQA compliance that we need to do for the shaded fuel break, then we're also going to request in that RFP that consultant would also be available for us with Measure X projects as well.
So it sounds like, yeah, so I understand that. Do you have, it seems like you don't have anybody in Contra Costa County that handles CEQA then. You go to the consultant.
Yeah, we will go. So for anything with these proposals, we will go to the consultant. Now, what we've done in the past is when we focused on evacuation route cleanup, Contra Costa County Public Works did have somebody that they had assigned to them through the county. And I can't remember who that contact is, that was able to confirm that we had an exemption, or we followed under these guidelines to say that we were CEQA compliant because we were doing evacuation route cleanups on county roads, that if we worked within these parameters, we were compliant with CEQA and we were exempt.
So is that something that we could piggyback on? Because the way I'm looking at this is under the Fire Safe Council, they don't necessarily, when they get that grant funding to conduct fuel mitigation project, it may not be in county area. It'll be maybe specific to Richmond. So at that point, we can't piggyback on, and I understand what you just stated. So if there's somebody that you in Public Works that we can tap into, and that would be, if there's a fee, then that would be covered through the grant. But we're just trying to locate somebody to put in contact with our city planner so that we can be CEQA compliant in the city of Richmond.
Okay. Yeah, so that would be separate, but if, just to clarify though, the Measure X spending that we're going to be using for these mitigation projects is not just for the county area. It's for every fire district in Contra Costa County. So that's why I was bringing up earlier that if we're doing a project in the city of Richmond, we can still spend the Measure X dollars on that.
Mhm.
But I want to make sure that either the fire chief or the fire marshal has said, I support this project. This is a high priority to us, and we want this project done. And we will spend the Measure X dollars in the city of Richmond on these projects, and use Measure X money to do that, along with the CEQA piece that will be paid for under this Measure X, because Measure X is county-wide. It's not just in the unincorporated areas of the county. It will go in those cities also, but we want to make sure we have the fire department support.
Right. Yeah.
Because it's their jurisdiction.
Right. And I understand all that, Chris. I was just talking specific to Richmond under the umbrella of the Fire Safe Council with money that they're going to use. That's in just the city of Richmond. I understand everything that you're saying and it makes sense, obviously. But if there's something that we could do,
let me see, because we're in the final stages of submitting that RFP. So let me see when we go to submit that RFP if there's, because I know sometimes you can add language to say this RFP could be used by neighboring jurisdictions looking for likewise projects that then maybe you could piggyback on it to say, we already went out to bid for this CEQA consultant, and whatever that hourly rate is, that maybe you could piggyback onto that saying it already went out for RFP, it went out to bid, and based on the language we added, it allows other county fire departments to tag onto that. I think we could probably still achieve that through this RFP process.
all right, great. Yeah, if you could follow up with me, I appreciate it. Or the fire marshal. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Serge, you have your hand up. Please make it quick because we're a little behind the schedule. Go ahead. Unmute, please. Thank you.
Just to comment on this CEQA thing, which I've been following out of concern for our council. It's good news what I'm hearing from Chief Bachman that someone is thinking about CEQA compliance and you have an RFP going that could cover City of Richmond geography, City of Richmond jurisdiction. That's great if you can work us in. I do also understand you're saying it's limited to Measure X. So that's news to me and good to know to plan around. And I guess the final comment I've got though is one way or another, ultimately a CEQA document, it's not certified by a consultant, it's by the lead agency that is paying the consultant. And so what Chris is talking about, it presumably be either CALFire or possibly the county. And so ultimately you got to have a relationship with a planner somewhere. And it sounds like the county's got access, and it sounds like in the city we may have access also. But if not, we're going to have to snag one. So
Thank you very much. Serge is the environmental conscience of the Fire Safe Council. Thank you, Serge. So I appreciate that. And thank you, Mike, for putting your contact information in the chat. I encourage others to do the same for the sake of networking and getting to know each other better. With that, we're gonna move to the next item, and that I'm gonna show a screen. I already shared it with Ed, Chief Orr at CALFire. The issue here is this is a high power transmission tower of PG&E. Can everyone see the screen I'm sharing? Hello?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we
Thank
can
you.
see it.
Thank you. So as you see under this, first of all, there is dead vegetation piled underneath it. There's fire logs. It's closed off by wood fence. The gate to the area wouldn't open from outside because there were wood chips on the floor. Just too many issues, and it's right at the center of a residential area. So we had PG&E safety officer who's on vacation right now, or he would join us, come and visit it, and he says everything's okay. It's perfectly according to the fire code by CALFire. So we are asking CALFire to please revise the code if possible.
Well, this is Ed Ory, Santa Clara unit. That's not exactly my expertise, but I do know that the standards for a transmission line are very different than a distribution line. And the threats posed by a transmission line are far lower than a distribution line. So I would need to look to see what the specifications are, but I fully understand that the optics of that are not good. You know, those lines are so much higher, and they're the amount of separation from vegetation is typically far greater, and those lines don't come down very often or cross. So perhaps Chief Montoya's fire marshal might know more about that in your jurisdiction.
Actually, Fire Marshal Goldman was with us during the tour. It started when I asked them how often did they check the C hooks, and they couldn't find any record of the whole set of transmission towers. So Les had to come and see the safety officer that it is their towers. And he's supposed to get back to me, but he's on vacation right now. But I just wanted to ask you for the code, please, because it just to common sense doesn't sound right after having so many wildfires triggered by that. So, and this is only one picture. I can show a lot more with, you know, high wheat growth underneath it. And they say it's perfectly okay. And dead fuel around it. And it's running through East Bay Regional Parks area. So yeah, we would appreciate it if you could please look into it and keep us posted about your findings.
So
Yeah,
to Chief Orr, I was going to comment what you had said about, we through the fire marshal looked at it, and it's pretty much following the lead of CALFire is what my fire marshal stated to me. So if you guys are on board with that, then he feels that we should also be. So at this point, and I think if you remember, Sohaila, too, that the PG&E also told us that when we toured that, because that was the area that we also looked at with them, right?
Yes.
Yeah, where they said it was pretty much in compliance also. So so really the lead right here would be CALFire, which our fire marshal agrees with.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, I'll certainly look into that, and requesting maintenance records from PG&E and asking about the age of those structures and components is probably a good thing. It puts PG&E on notice that you're paying attention and you're concerned.
Thank you. I didn't know we could ask for maintenance records. Definitely. I appreciate that. Yeah.
You can always ask.
Good. Yeah, we just asked them how often they've been checked. Okay, I will ask him. Marilyn, go ahead, please.
Yep. Oh, it looks like one of those black video days. Sorry, guys. I wanted to ask if a city has its own standards, which I'm pretty sure Orinda has, because Rebecca notes that Orinda requires that brush and debris is cleared. Would that supersede CALFire standards?
Chief Montoya, can we request the city for a more strict ordinance?
Again, Sohaila, that's one thing that our fire marshal looked at when he was out there. And he feels, that right now, he's comfortable with the lead of CALFire on this. If CALFire says that they're comfortable with that, he didn't mention anything about any code adjustment or amendment.
To clarify, I'm asking if we had a change, would it supersede CALFire? That was actually my question.
Well, I mean, we could always change it to supersede CALFires, but the question is, do we want to do that? I don't know if this is a discussion that I would have to have with the fire marshal.
And then most of it actually is in the county. Most of those high transmission towers are within the county. Only this one is in the city. Okay, so we'll wait for CALFire code to be clarified. Thank you very much.
Are any of the towers distribution towers? Or is it all transmission?
Oh, there are some distribution towers. I'll share the map next time. I should have. I don't have it, but we showed it to PG&E's safety officer. Once he gets back to me, I'll provide a complete report.
I just want to support the chief's reaction to what we're saying and acknowledge the critical risk difference between transmission and distribution towers. I used to work PG&E lines for the department, and so there is a very specific physical difference there. So, yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'll keep you definitely posted with more details from now on. I didn't know you were with PG&E before. Very good.
Not with PG&E, but I was a liaison to PG&E for the.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So let's move on with our short time. And at this time, actually, I would like to ask Mike and Nora give a brief presentation about their agency, what they do, and the 1 hour presentation and question and answer for the community to follow up. Go ahead, please.
Absolutely. We'll keep it very brief. So our detection system, which is currently operating throughout the state, has over 1,000 cameras. We're using AI technology and night vision capabilities to identify and early detection and confirmation of wildfires throughout the state. In fact, most recent, our technology is grabbing some fires well ahead in the National Forest up in the Shasta Trinity. Just this couple days ago, we spotted the Foxfire on our system 17 hours before it was dispatched. So if you can imagine, a fire burning for that period of time will be a significant loss of timber property and potential loss of life. So our goal is get the system operating at such a level where our operations center, which will be in January, operating in a 24-hour every day, 365 days per year, to have folks in our warning center to be able to detect, confirm, and get our information out to CALFire ECCs, as well as local fire dispatch centers to get these fires dispatched as quickly as possible. I'm going to turn it over to Nora for a really brief just show of our system, and we can talk about some of the cameras in the Contra Costa area right now.
Thank you so much for that. So as Mike was saying, we have over 1,000 cameras in our system, and we have quite a few in the East Bay. We have a pretty good relationship with Lafayette. So I'm going to share my screen, and give me just a second to pull up the correct thing here. Okay. All right, and can everyone see the screen with the website on it?
Yes.
Okay, great. So the good thing about our website is that all visitors to the website can view all cameras. So you don't need to be logged in order to view potential incidents that are happening. So you can see actually right here up by Concord, someone has recently moved this camera. So basically this is a very good fire monitoring system that we have in place here. So we have cameras here and down here as well. Basically, so the good thing about this is that like first responders primarily use these cameras in order to make sure that we can get resources to fire incidences as fast as we possibly can. So I'm going to log in right quick and just kind of show you what that camera movement system looks like. And then we'll be able to do a more in-depth thing later on. So give me a second here. All right, so now once I'm in, I have camera control movement access. I can also very quickly just on the map see which cameras are offline. So over here, we've got one up by Richmond Heights that's offline, probably due to the weather. And then basically once I move into a camera console page, I'll pick, let's see, there's one around here in the like Alameda Contra Costa line that I actually looks at a trail that I used to hike on when I lived out there, but I'm not gonna dig for it now for time's sake. So if I go to, oh, and there's the weather again, you can see those offline cameras here. So when I go into the camera movement console here, I can see as a logged in person, the camera view feed, the map, the panoramic images, which kind of allow for a 360-degree view of what the camera can see. And then also a camera movement log, which this one hasn't been moved in a while, so you're not really going to see any data there. But the camera movement log is a good way for logged in users, which are primarily first responders, to kind of share information about why they're moving the camera. So for example, if I go into this page, the Evora Road camera that was moved recently, then we can see who's moved that camera and what message they might have left. And I'm just going to move that there. So then that allows for people to safely move the cameras without any camera movement conflicts. So that way CALFire, or as you can see, Lafayette has been moving that camera quite a lot. And then we're able to just kind of very quickly like relay messages about, oh, I'm checking for smoke. Oh, I'm looking at weather conditions, things like that. So this map is also really helpful as well, but really one of the great things about this system is that you can very easily triangulate where fire incidents may be. So if I were to move this camera here, which I might just do as a test. Okay, so if I were to move this camera here, and I'm not going to see anything, but okay, and you can see that the target on the map is moving as I move the camera. So a camera movement log thing will come up on the screen, and I'll just say that I'm training, take it off ghost mode, and then I will be able to very quickly triangulate any potential incident, which again is in the interest of saving time. So say there was an incident right here, I would just be able to click on that, very quickly get the lat long in different formats, and then I would be able to input that into whatever system I need to then deploy resources to that area. So it's really good for that reason, as well as the AI that we're developing that Mike mentioned. The AI actually has some automatic detections. It may not show that many today due to the weather throughout most of the state, but if I zoom out to Southern California, we'll probably get some. And so one great feature about the AI detection feature that we're training every day pretty much is that it will basically triangulate potential detections. So if there is an incident, you can very, very quickly see it. So you can see there were several detections within the past 3 hours in this area. And I do believe this is a prescribed burn. We'll just take a look at that and see what that camera is. Yeah, so someone has put here that it's a prescribed fire. So it's a very quick and easy way to be able to tell what's going on in a given area at any time. So if you have any questions, or if you potentially need an account, we do ask that primarily first responders and fire personnel are the people who have access to the platform. Then Mike and myself are the people to go through for that, and we'd be happy to conduct a more in-depth training on how to use the website at a later date. This is sort of an overview.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll be in touch with you to request a full presentation for the community to give them peace of mind, and also receive their suggestions about where we need the cameras. We've been discussing it for a while. Thank you so much.
We're always happy to take feedback. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Because we're short in time, I'm going to move the virtual drill item to the next meeting and combine the next 2 items together. So evacuation is a major issue in our community. We have 2 problems, and we need everyone's brainstorming and helping, please. One is the issue of parking restriction on narrow roads, and the other one is actual evacuation with the help of police and sheriff. And one issue is, what do we do about the people who have mobility issues, disabled people, elderly people? What do other communities do about it? What can we do about it? Any ideas and suggestions? We would very much appreciate it. Anybody? Well, we were hoping more ideas, actually. Do you know of any other communities, what they do about it? It's a very serious issue, because our community is a community of mostly elderly people. You know, it was a new development around, I don't know, 40 years ago or 50 years ago. And now those people are old, and it's a wildfire area. Go ahead, Marilyn.
Well, actually, I'm raising more concerns. In our own area, I have discovered there is some distrust of having a resource where people with disabilities or with frail elders can go and ask for help. I know other areas use, I've forgotten the name of the group, but there's a group that handles these kinds of details and keeps confidentiality, but it seems to be accessible only online. And then they report the information to fire departments. I know Kensington, the police collect all that information, and they are trusted by Kensington residents. But as people probably know, that's a very conflicted situation here in Richmond. But that's why we do need some suggestions and helps. But I just like to say, for us, it has to be a trusted place to put confidential information like medical and PP location and so forth.
Thank you. Brandy, please.
One, I can definitely get you in contact with the person who's responsible for that work in our office. That
Wonderful.
helps individuals who have disabilities to ensure they can connect through FEMA, but also through their local and state counterparts. So I'll share that contact with you. The other thing that I think would be helpful is to get the plans for response to disasters in your area, because those plans that we typically exercise with fire leaders, police leaders, all of those folks in your community should give you a sense of what they have plans already in place for in case any kind of a disaster happens, like what would typically occur, and would give you an opportunity to insert additional ideas or suggestions in case they're lacking in a specific area, or there are things that you would like them to look into. So the planning part, I think, is important, because that's most probably what will be utilized if something happens. And then from an advisory perspective or advice, I can definitely connect you with Roxanne Crawford in our office, because she knows about a lot of that.
Thank you for that. In terms of planning, actually, we just had the first evacuation drill in May of this year, the first ever in the city of Richmond, to make sure that the city and county, because El Sobrante is partly city, partly county, can work together, and sheriff office and police office. And we are very glad actually that we have a representative from the sheriff's office as well as Richmond Police, and we also Pinole Police, to make sure they can work together, different offices of emergency management. But I don't know what plan you're talking about. Is it beyond evacuation drill?
Well, your catastrophic planning for disasters. So I'm not sure if it's at the county level or at the city level. But those are the plans that we as FEMA would sometimes join in with others in the community to exercise, to see if those plans still hold true for various hazards. So there may be a fire plan or an earthquake plan, et cetera, or just one overall catastrophic disaster plan for your area, taking into account structures and where things are and what people need in that particular community, how to evacuate people and those kinds of things. So I'm not saying that it doesn't exist. I believe it should exist somewhere. I think we just need to find it and plug in. And if you can share with me anything that you have that you want Roxy to look at or Roxanne to look at, then she can give you some concrete insights on paper that you can take back with you.
I very much appreciate it, but definitely do that. As far as I know, there is no such a thing. And just wanted to let you know, our concern is that we are right by Hayward Fault. In case of a major earthquake, we will have a wildfire, and there are two major PG&E gas transmission lines that they will break too, and they crisscross the interstate. So it's going to be a disaster, to the power of n, unfortunately. I don't know of any plans. I mean, we initiated the first evacuation drill with the help of Chief Montoya, but I'll let Marilyn talk.
What I was going to say is, some years ago, I discovered that Richmond had prepared an evacuation plan that would become part of an appendix with the county's plan, because the county really didn't address Richmond's uniquely toxic combination of issues, which Sohaila just mentioned one of. Of course, we have also a heavy industry section that's quite dangerous in an earthquake situation, as well as a wildfire zone on the opposite side of Richmond. So, but I was going to say, it's been in draft, I think, since 2019, and I think that was due to COVID. And I was trying to do a search to find it online. I have a copy of it if anyone wants it, but I think it just stalled out and never moved forward, partially because there were so many staffing changes recently, and all for the good. I'm very happy with our evolution in the Richmond Fire Department for sure. But I'm just saying, we have one, it stalled out. It definitely needed a lot of work still, because it did not address, for example, the special circumstances of being of West and East Richmond being completely cut off by the gas lines if they rupture during an earthquake, which is likely.
And we don't have any plans for school evacuations, as far as I know. In case of a major wildfire or earthquake, what happens to school children? No idea. That's another concern that was raised. So share that plan with me, Marilyn. I'm going to share it with the group and everyone. And with your help, Brandy, we're going to follow up on that. Thank you so much. And hopefully we'll get it somewhere. But I still need everyone to please help us. Go ahead, Mark, please.
So the County Office of Emergency Services does have an emergency plan that you can reference. It doesn't get down into the weeds on some of the specifics as far as specific routes for evacuations and things like that. And for good reason. In some cases, the situation is going to dictate. So we can plan certain routes. I mean, certain neighborhoods, especially in some of the areas here on the west end of the county, there are only limited numbers of ways in and out of that community. So you can imagine that the evacuation plan is going to be to the nearest major thoroughfare. But on some of the other things, as far as the schools, as you just mentioned, the West Contra Costa County School District actually has a safety plan that applies to all of the schools, and it addresses certain things such as active shooter response, evacuations, things of that nature, how those things should be addressed. And they've identified, sites within the schools or within the campuses. If we get this type of event, this is where we're going to move the children to a safe location. Again, though, that's all going to depend and be dictated upon the nature of the incident. If the incident is taking place in your designated safe zone, that obviously isn't going to work, and we'd have to work with them as these things unfold. I'll get in touch with Rick Kovar over at the Office of Emergency Services and see if I can't get you a copy of the current plan so that you'd be able to share with the members and go from there. So, but yeah, these things are good to know. I know in some of the community meetings that I've attended, some of the questions that have been asked have been designated evacuation routes. And a lot of times it's going to be at the time that the event is occurring, and those are going to be determined by the incident commanders at that time. As far as transporting and with some of the disabled, I'd have to look into that as far as, having pre-planned. If it's during an incident, a lot of times we tend to reach out to our partners and our neighboring agencies. So in some cases, if there is say a paratransit that we can tap during the incident, say, hey, do you have any available resources to assist us with going to 123 Main Street, where we've identified that somebody is disabled and not able to get out of the home. But again, that I'll have to look in a little bit more to find out if there's anything outside of that that's established that I'm aware of. There isn't, but I'm also relatively new to that side of it. So I'll look into it, and I'll hopefully have some more information for you guys at the next meeting. And I'll share it with you before then if I come across it.
Yes, please you don't have to wait until the next these quarterly meetings are for, more communication and connection between different agencies and us,
Perfect.
Sure. And Mark, I will send you a list of the very narrow streets that residents are saying they're concerned an ambulance cannot get through or evacuation is impossible. We need no parking on red flag days, signs and things like that. We're going to get started on that process, and I'll send you an email about it.
Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. Anything else? It's almost 12. So we made it to 1 hour over the agenda. Go ahead, Susan, unmute yourself. Unmute, please. Susan, you're muted. If you want to say something, unmute and make it quick, please.
I was just going to say that in addition to all these wonderful things about getting who can actually help in this, we have to come up with a plan of finding out, and I don't know how, by in some way communicating with everybody in our area and asking them to fill out who is or who will need these services, and somehow be able to take a list like that to the kind of thing you're talking about, that is being talked about here, of the people who actually will do the evacuation. So there's that kind of coordination. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much, Susan. Appreciate it. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today with us. Very good meeting, excellent. And I'm going to share the recording with the community, and I'll send the link to you all. Have a good day, and many thanks again.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.